Tasha James stood in the pristine marble lobby of First National Bank, her heels clicking against the polished floor as she approached the teller window. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows, casting geometric shadows across the floor, but something felt different today. The usual warmth she felt when handling their financial matters had been replaced by an odd sense of dread that had been building for weeks. "Good morning, Mrs. James," the teller, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes named Patricia, greeted her with a smile that seemed forced. "How can I help you today?" "I need to make a withdrawal from our joint savings account," Tasha said, sliding her ID across the counter. "Just $5,000. Patricia's fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced efficiency, but then she paused. Her expression shifted from professional courtesy to something Tasha couldn't quite read. Concern? Pity? The silence stretched between them like a taut wire. "Mrs. James," Patricia said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm going to need you to speak with our branch manager. Please, have a seat and I'll get him for you." Tasha's heart began to race. In 15 years of marriage, she and James had never had any banking issues. Their joint account had always been healthy, sitting comfortably at around $250,000 from years of careful saving and James's successful accounting practice. "Is there a problem?" Tasha asked, but Patricia was already walking toward the back offices. The waiting area felt suffocating. Tasha sat in one of the leather chairs, her hands gripping her purse so tightly her knuckles were white. Other customers came and went, conducting their business with ease, while she remained frozen in place, waiting for answers she wasn't sure she wanted to hear. 20 minutes later, a tall man in a navy suit approached her. His face was grave, the kind of expression people wore when delivering bad news. "Mrs. James, I'm Robert Chin, the branch manager. Could you please come to my office?" Tasha followed him down a hallway lined with motivational posters about financial planning and security. The irony wasn't lost on her. Robert's office was small but professional, with family photos on his desk and certificates lining the walls. "Please sit down," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "Mrs. James, I need to inform you about some unusual activity on your joint savings account." "Unusual how?" Tasha's voice came out smaller than she intended. Robert pulled out a printed statement and placed it in front of her. "3 days ago, your husband James came in and requested a complete transfer of funds from your joint savings account. The full amount of $248,732 was transferred to an account belonging to Rebecca Torres." The words hit Tasha like a physical blow. She stared at the statement, seeing her husband's signature on the transfer authorization, but the numbers didn't make sense. Their life savings gone. Transferred to a woman she had never heard of. "I don't understand," Tasha said, her voice shaking. "James wouldn't do this without telling me. We make all major financial decisions together." Robert's expression grew more uncomfortable. "Mrs. James, I have to tell you that this isn't the first time your husband has made transfers to this particular account. Over the past 18 months, there have been multiple smaller transfers totaling approximately $60,000. The room began to spin. Tasha gripped the arms of her chair, trying to process what she was hearing. 18 months of secret transfers. A woman named Rebecca Torres. And now their entire life savings gone. "I need to see all the records," Tasha said, her voice growing stronger despite the chaos in her mind. "Every transaction, every transfer. I want to see everything." Robert nodded. "Of course. I'll have Patricia print out the complete transaction history for the past 2 years. Mrs. James, I have to ask, were you aware of your husband's relationship with Miss Torres?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Tasha's throat felt dry, but she managed to speak. "No. I've never heard that name before in my life." "I'm very sorry," Robert said. "Based on the frequency and amounts of these transfers, and the fact that he's cleaned out your joint account, I would strongly recommend that you consider protecting yourself financially. You might want to speak with an attorney." Tasha stood up on shaking legs. "I need those records. All of them. And I need to know everything about this Rebecca Torres." As Patricia printed out stack after stack of transaction records, Tasha felt something shifting inside her. The initial shock and heartbreak were being replaced by something else. Something harder and more focused. James had not only betrayed her trust in their marriage, but he had stolen their entire future together and given it to another woman. Looking at the evidence in black and white, Tasha realized that her husband of 15 years had been living a double life. Every late night at the office and client dinner had been a lie. Every time he had kissed her goodbye in the morning and told her he loved her, he had been planning to meet another woman and give her their money. The worst part was how systematic it had been. The transfers weren't impulsive or emotional decisions. They were calculated, planned, executed over months. James had been slowly draining their life together, dollar by dollar, while she had been home planning their future, talking about retirement, and believing in their marriage. Tasha walked out of the bank that morning with a folder full of evidence and a heart full of determination. She didn't know exactly what she was going to do, but she knew one thing for certain. James had made the biggest mistake of his life when he decided to steal from her and lie to her. As she sat in her car in the parking lot, staring at the bank statements, Tasha made a promise to herself. She wasn't going to cry. She wasn't going to beg him to come back. She wasn't going to forgive him and try to work things out. Instead, she was going to find out exactly what James had been doing, who Rebecca Torres was, and how she could get every penny back. And then she was going to make sure that James paid for every lie he had told and every dollar he had stolen. The sun was shining brightly through her windshield, and for the first time in months, Tasha felt like she could see clearly. Her marriage was over, but her life was just beginning. Tasha's hands trembled as she turned the key in the front door of their suburban home. The house that had once felt like a sanctuary now felt like a crime scene. Every family photo on the walls, every piece of furniture they had bought together, every shared memory felt contaminated by James's betrayal. She walked through the living room, her heels echoing in the silence. James's coffee mug was still on the kitchen counter from that morning, lipstick stains on her own cup sitting right beside it. The normalcy of it all felt surreal after what she had discovered at the bank. Tasha pulled out her phone and dialed James's office number. His secretary, Mrs. Patterson, answered on the second ring. "Good afternoon, James and Associates." "Hi, Mrs. Patterson, this is Tasha. Is James available?" There was a pause. "Oh, hello, Mrs. James. James is in meetings all day today. He said he wouldn't be available for any calls. Can I take a message?" Tasha's grip tightened on the phone. "What kind of meetings?" "Client meetings, I believe. He's been having a lot of those lately. Very busy schedule." "I see. What time do you expect him back to the office?" "Well, he actually left about an hour ago and said he wouldn't be back today. Would you like me to have him call you?" Tasha hung up without answering. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and James was already gone from the office, claiming to be in meetings all day. The lies were so casual, so practiced, that she wondered how long she had been living with a stranger. She climbed the stairs to their bedroom, a space that had once been their private retreat. Now it felt like enemy territory. Tasha stood in the doorway, surveying the room with new eyes. What had she missed? What signs had she ignored? The walk-in closet was her first stop. James's side was meticulously organized, just as it had always been. She began searching through his suit pockets, finding the usual items: breath mints, business cards, receipts. But in the pocket of his navy suit, the one he had worn to their anniversary dinner just 2 weeks ago, she found something that made her blood run cold. A receipt from Tasha's Secret, dated the day before their anniversary. $67 for lingerie. Tasha had never received any lingerie from James. The receipt showed a size small, but Tasha wore a medium. Her hands shook as she continued searching. In another jacket pocket, she found a hotel key card for the Marriott downtown. The date was from last month, during a weekend when James had claimed to be at her accounting conference in the city. Tasha had stayed home, believing her husband was advancing his career. The evidence was building, each piece more damning than the last. Tasha moved to James's dresser, methodically searching through each drawer. In the bottom drawer, hidden beneath his winter sweaters, she found a small gift box from Tiffany & Company. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a small charm engraved with the letter R. Rebecca. Tasha stared at the bracelet, imagining James carefully selecting it, having it engraved, presenting it to his mistress while Tasha was at home, completely unaware. Her phone rang, startling her. James's name appeared on the screen. "Hello," she answered, her voice carefully neutral. "Hey honey. How was your day?" His voice was warm, familiar, the same voice that had whispered, "I love you" that morning. "Fine. How are your meetings going?" "Really well. Looks like I'll be working late tonight. Don't wait up for me." Tasha looked at the Tiffany box in her hand. "What kind of meetings?" "Just client stuff. Really boring. How about you? What did you do today?" She could hear traffic in the background, the sound of a car door closing. "I went to the bank." There was a pause. "The bank? What for?" "I needed to make a withdrawal from our savings account." The silence stretched between them. Tasha could hear James's breathing, could almost feel his panic through the phone. "Is everything okay?" he asked, his voice slightly higher than usual. "No, James. Everything is not okay." She hung up and turned off her phone. She didn't want to hear his explanations, his lies, his attempts to manipulate her. She had work to do. Tasha went to James's home office, a small room off the main hallway where he kept his laptop and handled business from home. She had never invaded his privacy before, had never felt the need to. Now she wished she had been less trusting. The laptop was password protected, but Tasha knew James well enough to guess. She tried their anniversary date, their birthdays, their address. Nothing worked. Then she tried Rebecca, and the screen unlocked. The betrayal felt fresh all over again. James had replaced their life together with this other woman, even in his passwords. Tasha opened his email program, her heart pounding as she scrolled through his messages. The emails between James and Rebecca went back over 2 years, starting innocently enough with professional correspondence about real estate investments, but quickly becoming personal. She read message after message, watching her husband's relationship with another woman develop in real time. There were photos of Rebecca, an attractive woman with dark hair and a bright smile. There were emails planning dates, sharing inside jokes, making plans for their future together. But the most devastating emails were the ones where James talked about leaving Tasha. "I can't keep living this lie," he had written to Rebecca just 3 months ago. "Tasha suspects nothing, but I feel terrible about deceiving her. I want to be with you completely. I want to start our life together." Rebecca's response was equally heartbreaking. "I know it's hard, but we need to be patient. Once you've secured enough money for us to start fresh, we can be together openly. I love you, James. We're going to have the life we've always dreamed of." Tasha read email after email, each one detailing how James and Rebecca had been planning their future together using money stolen from Tasha's marriage. They had looked at houses together, planned vacations, discussed having children. All with money that belonged to Tasha. The house felt suffocating. Tasha grabbed her purse and car keys and drove aimlessly through the city, trying to process what she had learned. James hadn't just had an affair. He had built an entire alternate life with another woman and funded it with their joint savings. She found herself parked outside the Marriott Hotel, staring up at the building where her husband had been meeting his mistress. The parking garage receipt she had found in his jacket was from this very hotel. Tasha imagined James and Rebecca in one of those rooms, planning their future while she was at home, trusting and oblivious. Her phone had been buzzing constantly with calls from James, but she ignored them all. She wasn't ready to face him yet. She needed to understand the full scope of his betrayal before she could confront him. As the sun began to set, Tasha made a decision. She wasn't going to be the victim in this story. James had clearly underestimated her, thinking she would never discover his secrets, never question his lies. He had been wrong about that, and he was going to be wrong about what happened next. Tasha drove home with a new sense of purpose. She was going to find out everything about James's double life, about Rebecca Torres, and about where her money had gone. And then she was going to make sure that James learned what it really meant to lose everything. Tasha spent the entire night going through James's digital life. With his laptop unlocked and her determination fueled by anger and betrayal, she became a detective in her own home. Every click revealed another layer of deception, another piece of the puzzle that had been her marriage. The social media accounts were perhaps the most painful discovery. James had a secret Instagram account under the name J_James_CPA, where he posted photos of his life with Rebecca. Pictures of them at restaurants Tasha had never been to, on weekend trips she had never heard about, at events she had never known existed. In one photo, Rebecca was wearing the silver bracelet Tasha had found in James's drawer. The caption read, "My beautiful girl wearing my gift. 2 years together and still feels like a dream." 2 years. Tasha stared at the date of the post. It was from their wedding anniversary. Tasha scrolled through months of photos, watching her husband's relationship with another woman unfold in real time. There were couple photos from Napa Valley, pictures of them at baseball games, images of Rebecca in James's office after hours. In every photo, James looked happier than Tasha had seen him in years. The comments on the photos were from people Tasha didn't recognize, friends James had apparently made in his alternate life. They congratulated him on his relationship, complimented Rebecca's beauty, and treated their relationship as if it were completely normal and public. But the most devastating discovery was James's Facebook account, which she found linked to his secret email address. His relationship status was listed as, in a relationship with Rebecca Torres. His profile was full of photos of them together dating back 2 years. To anyone looking at this account, James appeared to be a single man in love with Rebecca. Tasha clicked on Rebecca's profile, studying the woman who had been living her life in parallel. Rebecca Torres was 32 years old, a real estate agent with sterling properties, and according to her profile, she was in love with the most amazing man. Rebecca's photos showed a lifestyle that Tasha now realized had been funded by her own marriage. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, trips to luxury resorts, spa days and shopping sprees. There were photos of Rebecca in their money, Tasha's money, wearing clothes that cost more than Tasha's monthly grocery budget. As Tasha dug deeper into Rebecca's social media, she found photos of the apartment Rebecca lived in. It was a luxury downtown loft with floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture, and artwork that Tasha recognized from the credit card bills James had been handling. The credit card statements. Tasha had been so focused on the savings account that she hadn't thought about their credit cards. She logged into their joint account and found thousands of dollars in charges she didn't recognize. Restaurants, hotels, jewelry stores, clothing boutiques. All places James had been with Rebecca while Tasha was at home, believing her husband was working late. Tasha printed out months of credit card statements, highlighting every charge that corresponded to James's relationship with Rebecca. The total was staggering. In addition to the money transferred directly to Rebecca's account, James had spent over $40,000 on credit cards, funding their relationship. But the most shocking discovery came when Tasha accessed James's business email account. As a CPA, James managed the finances for several small businesses in the city. Tasha found email chains between James and Rebecca discussing something called property investment opportunities. The emails were coded, but Tasha was smart enough to read between the lines. James was using his clients' money to purchase properties that were immediately flipped and sold, with the profits going directly to Rebecca's accounts. Rebecca, as a real estate agent, was facilitating these transactions and taking a commission on each sale. Tasha found contracts, invoices, and transaction records that showed James had been embezzling money from his clients for over a year. He would temporarily borrow money from client accounts to purchase properties, then sell them quickly and return the original amount to the client accounts while keeping the profits. The scheme was sophisticated and had been going on for months. James would identify undervalued properties, use client funds to purchase them through shell companies, have Rebecca manage the sale, and then split the profits. To the clients, it looked like their money had simply been in their accounts all along. Tasha found records showing that James and Rebecca had made over $200,000 in profit from these illegal real estate transactions. Money that had been stolen from James's clients, laundered through property sales, and used to fund their relationship. The evidence was overwhelming. James wasn't just cheating on his wife, he was stealing from his clients and committing fraud. Tasha realized that she had been married to a criminal, and she had been completely unaware of his illegal activities. At 3 a.m, Tasha sat surrounded by printed emails, credit card statements, and property transaction records. The scope of James's betrayal went far beyond their marriage. He had been systematically stealing from the people who trusted him professionally while building a life with another woman. Tasha's phone buzzed with another text from James. "Tasha, please answer your phone. I can explain everything. I love you." She looked at the message and felt nothing but disgust. James had been telling Rebecca he loved her for 2 years while lying to Tasha's face every single day. His declarations of love were meaningless. Tasha spent the rest of the night researching Rebecca Torres. She found Rebecca's business license, her employment history, and her financial records. Rebecca had been struggling financially before meeting James, but her bank accounts showed regular deposits that corresponded exactly to James's transfers. Rebecca's real estate transactions also showed a pattern of suspicious activity. She had been buying and selling properties at unusual rates, often selling them for significantly more than their purchase price within weeks of buying them. The properties were all purchased through shell companies that Tasha traced back to James's business accounts. By dawn, Tasha had a complete picture of James's criminal enterprise. He had been embezzling money from his clients, laundering it through real estate transactions facilitated by Rebecca, and using the profits to fund their relationship while stealing from his own marriage. Tasha made coffee and sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by evidence of her husband's crimes. She felt strangely calm. The emotional devastation of discovering James's affair had been replaced by a cold, analytical understanding of what he had done. James had made a critical mistake. He had assumed that Tasha would never discover his activities, that she would never question his lies or investigate his behavior. He had underestimated her intelligence and her determination. Tasha picked up her phone and began making calls. First she called her lawyer. Then she called the FBI. James had stolen from the wrong woman, and Tasha was going to make sure he paid for every crime he had committed. The sun was rising over the city as Tasha finished her calls. James would be home soon, expecting to find his trusting wife waiting for him. Instead, he was going to find a woman who knew everything about his criminal activities and was prepared to destroy the life he had built on lies and stolen money. Tasha smiled for the first time in weeks. James was about to learn that his biggest mistake wasn't just stealing from his clients or cheating on his wife. His biggest mistake was underestimating the woman he had betrayed. Tasha arrived at James's office building at 8 in the morning, 2 hours before the firm typically opened. She had spent the night planning her approach, and she knew exactly what she needed to do. The security guard, Mr. Johnson, had known her for years and waved her through without question. "Morning, Mrs. James. You're here early today." "James forgot some important documents at home," Tasha said with a smile. "I'm just dropping them off." She took the elevator to the 15th floor, where James and associates occupied a corner suite. The office was quiet, the hallways empty except for the cleaning crew finishing their work. Tasha used her key to enter James's private office, the same office where he had been conducting his illegal business activities. Tasha went straight to James's filing cabinet, which she had seen him access countless times during their marriage. She found the key taped to the bottom of his desk drawer, exactly where she had expected it to be. James was methodical in his organization, a trait that was now working against him. The files were organized by client name, and Tasha pulled out folders for each of the businesses James managed. Mitchell Construction, Peterson's Restaurant Group, Riverside Medical Practice, and 7 other small businesses that trusted James with their financial management. As Tasha reviewed the files, she found exactly what she had expected. James had been systematically stealing from each client, using their money for his real estate scheme with Rebecca. The amounts were carefully calculated to avoid detection, never more than what would be considered a normal fluctuation in cash flow. Mitchell Construction's file showed that James had borrowed $50,000 from their account in January to purchase a property on Pine Street. The property was sold 3 weeks later for a profit of $18,000. James had returned the original $50,000 to Mitchell's account, but the $18,000 profit had gone directly to Rebecca's account. The pattern was repeated with every client. James would identify a property opportunity, use client funds to purchase it, sell it quickly through Rebecca's real estate connections, and keep the profits while returning the original investment to the client accounts. Tasha found correspondence between James and Rebecca discussing which clients had the most available cash flow, which properties would sell fastest, and how to time the transactions to avoid detection. They had been operating like business partners, with Rebecca handling the real estate transactions and James managing the financial manipulation. But the most damning evidence was in James's personal files. Tasha found a folder labeled Future Planning that contained detailed financial projections for his life with Rebecca. The documents showed that James had been planning to leave Tasha for over a year, systematically moving money and planning their escape. The folder contained lease agreements for the luxury apartment Rebecca was living in, all signed by James. Credit card applications in James's name with Rebecca listed as an authorized user. Investment accounts opened in both their names. James had been building a complete financial life with Rebecca while maintaining the facade of his marriage to Tasha. Tasha photographed every document with her phone, creating a comprehensive record of James's criminal activities. She found bank statements showing the flow of money from client accounts to property purchases to Rebecca's accounts. She found emails between James and Rebecca discussing which clients would be easiest to steal from. She found contracts and invoices showing the full scope of their money laundering operation. The evidence was overwhelming. James and Rebecca had stolen over $300,000 from James's clients over the course of 18 months. They had used sophisticated financial manipulation to hide their crimes, but they had also been meticulous in documenting their activities. Tasha's phone buzzed with a text from James. "Where are you? I came home and you weren't there. I'm worried about you." She ignored the message and continued her investigation. In James's desk drawer, she found a burner phone that he had been using to communicate with Rebecca. The phone contained hundreds of text messages between them, discussing their criminal activities and their plans for the future. "The Peterson account has enough for the Oak Avenue property," James had texted Rebecca 3 weeks ago. "Can you handle the purchase today?" "Already on it," Rebecca had replied. "This one should net us at least $20,000. We're getting close to our goal." "What's our current total?" James had asked. "With this transaction we'll have about $400,000 in our accounts. Plus the money from your joint account with Tasha. We'll have enough to disappear." Tasha felt sick reading the messages. James and Rebecca had been planning to steal enough money to disappear together, leaving Tasha and James's clients to deal with the financial devastation. But the most revealing messages were the ones where James discussed his plans for leaving Tasha. "I hate lying to her every day," James had texted Rebecca. "Tasha doesn't deserve this, but I can't keep living a lie." "I know it's hard," Rebecca had replied. "But we're so close to being free. Once we have enough money, we can start our life together. Tasha will be fine. She's strong. She's going to be devastated when she finds out," James had written. "I feel terrible about what this will do to her." "You can't think about that now," Rebecca had responded. "We deserve to be happy. Tasha will understand eventually." Tasha stared at the messages, feeling a mix of anger and disgust. James and Rebecca had been discussing her like she was an obstacle to their happiness, someone who would eventually understand why they had stolen from her and destroyed her life. Tasha spent 2 hours in James's office, documenting every piece of evidence she could find. She copied files, photographed documents, and downloaded data from James's computer. By the time she was finished, she had enough evidence to send both James and Rebecca to prison for decades. As she prepared to leave, Tasha found one final piece of evidence that made her blood run cold. In James's appointment book, she found an entry for today: "Meet with lawyer, divorce papers." James had scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney for this afternoon. Tasha realized that James had been planning to serve her with divorce papers today, probably after cleaning out their bank accounts and disappearing with Rebecca. He had been preparing to leave her with nothing while he started a new life with stolen money. Tasha left the office building with a folder full of evidence and a heart full of determination. James had been planning to destroy her life, but instead, he had given her everything she needed to destroy his. She drove home, knowing that James would be waiting for her with lies and explanations. But Tasha was done being the victim in this story. She had evidence of James's crimes, documentation of his theft, and proof of his plans to abandon her. James had spent months planning his escape, but Tasha was about to show him that she had been planning too. And her plan was going to leave James with nothing while she rebuilt her life with the money he had stolen. The game was about to change and Tasha was ready to play. Tasha sat in her car outside a small law firm in downtown, her hands gripping the steering wheel as she stared at the building. The sign read Martinez and Associates Criminal Defense, but Tasha wasn't here for defense. She was here to build a case that would destroy James's life the same way he had tried to destroy hers. Attorney Sarah Martinez was a woman Tasha had found through extensive research. Martinez specialized in financial crimes and had a reputation for being ruthless in court. More importantly, she had experience with cases involving embezzlement and money laundering. Tasha walked into the law office carrying a box filled with evidence. She had spent the past 3 days organizing every document, every photo, every piece of proof she had found. The evidence was overwhelming, but Tasha wanted to make sure she presented it in a way that would guarantee James's conviction. "Mrs. James," Martinez said, gesturing to a chair across from her desk. "You mentioned on the phone that you have evidence of financial crimes committed by your husband." Tasha placed the box on Martinez's desk. "My husband has been embezzling money from his clients for over a year. He's been using the stolen money to fund his relationship with his mistress and to plan his escape from our marriage." Martinez opened the box and began examining the documents. Her expression grew more serious with each piece of evidence she reviewed. "This is extensive," Martinez said. "You have bank statements, email correspondence, property transaction records, and communication between your husband and his accomplice. How did you obtain all of this?" "Most of it came from James's home office and his business office. The rest I found through public records and online research," Tasha explained. "I have documentation showing that James has stolen over $300,000 from his clients." Martinez continued reviewing the evidence. "These property transactions are particularly damaging. Your husband and this Rebecca Torres have been running a sophisticated money laundering operation. They've been using stolen funds to purchase properties, selling them quickly and keeping the profits." Tasha pulled out a folder containing the most damning evidence. "James has been planning to leave me for over a year. He's been systematically moving money out of our joint accounts and into accounts he shares with Rebecca. Yesterday, I discovered that he has an appointment with a divorce attorney today." "He's planning to divorce you?" Martinez asked. "He's planning to divorce me and disappear with Rebecca using money he's stolen from his clients and from our marriage," Tasha said. "I found text messages between them discussing their plans to disappear once they had enough money." Martinez leaned back in her chair. "Mrs. James, what you've brought me is evidence of multiple felonies. Embezzlement, money laundering, fraud, and conspiracy. Your husband and his accomplice could face decades in prison. Good, Tasha said without hesitation. I want them to pay for what they've done. Martinez began organizing the evidence into categories. The first thing we need to do is contact the FBI. Financial crimes of this magnitude require federal investigation. We'll also need to contact the State Bar Association, since your husband is a licensed CPA. I've already spoken with the FBI, Tasha said. Agent Thompson is expecting our call. I also contacted the State Board of Accountancy yesterday. Martinez looked impressed. You've been thorough. What's your goal here, Mrs. James? Are you looking for criminal prosecution, civil recovery, or both? I want everything, Tasha said. I want James and Rebecca prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I want them to lose their professional licenses. I want to recover every penny they've stolen. And I want to make sure they never have the opportunity to do this to anyone else. Martinez nodded. We can certainly pursue all of those goals. But I have to warn you, this is going to be a lengthy process. Criminal investigations take time, and your husband will likely hire a skilled defense attorney. I don't care how long it takes, Tasha said. I have all the time in the world and I have evidence that will convict them. Martinez spent the next hour reviewing the evidence in detail. She examined the email correspondence between James and Rebecca, the property transaction records, the bank statements, and the text messages discussing their criminal activities. This is one of the most comprehensive cases I've ever seen, Martinez said. Your husband and his accomplice have been remarkably careless about documenting their crimes. These emails and text messages are going to be devastating in court. Tasha felt a sense of satisfaction. James always said I was too trusting, that I didn't pay enough attention to details. He was wrong about that. Mrs. James, I need to ask you something important, Martinez said. Are you prepared for the media attention this case will generate? Financial crimes of this magnitude, especially involving infidelity and betrayal, tend to attract significant public interest. Tasha hadn't considered the media implications, but she found that she didn't care. Let them report on it. Maybe other people will see the story and realize what their own spouses are capable of. Martinez made notes on her legal pad. We'll need to move quickly. If your husband is meeting with a divorce attorney today, he may be planning to accelerate his timeline. We need to get freezing orders on all accounts and assets before he has a chance to move more money. What about Rebecca? Tasha asked. She's just as guilty as James. Rebecca Torres will be charged as a co-conspirator, Martinez said. Based on this evidence, she's been an active participant in the money laundering operation. She'll face the same charges as your husband. Tasha felt a sense of justice beginning to take shape. How long do you think it will take to get them arrested? With evidence this comprehensive, I expect arrests within the week, Martinez said. The FBI will want to move quickly to prevent them from destroying additional evidence or fleeing. Tasha left Martinez's office feeling more confident than she had in weeks. She had taken the first step in bringing James and Rebecca to justice, and she had the evidence to ensure their conviction. As she drove home, Tasha's phone rang. It was James. Tasha, we need to talk, he said. I'm coming home early today. There are some things I need to discuss with you. I'll be waiting, Tasha said and hung up. Tasha knew that James was coming home to serve her with divorce papers and probably to make some final attempt to manipulate her. He had no idea that she had spent the past week building a case that would destroy his life. Tasha arrived home and waited in the living room, surrounded by copies of the evidence she had given to Martinez. She had left the original documents in plain sight, wanting James to see exactly what she had discovered. When James walked through the door, he looked nervous and fidgety. He was carrying a briefcase, probably containing the divorce papers he had prepared. Tasha, we need to talk about our marriage, he began, but stopped when he saw the documents spread across the coffee table. Tasha smiled at him. Yes, James. We definitely need to talk about our marriage. And about Rebecca Torres. And about the $300,000 you've stolen from your clients. James's face went white. He stared at the evidence, then at Tasha, then back at the evidence. I can explain, he said weakly. I'm sure you can, Tasha replied. But first, I think you should know that I've already given copies of all this evidence to the FBI and to my attorney. They're very interested in discussing your business activities with you. James sank into a chair, his briefcase forgotten. Tasha, please. Let me explain what happened. Tasha looked at the man she had been married to for 15 years and felt nothing but disgust. The only thing I want to hear from you, James, is how you plan to return every penny you've stolen. Because if you don't, you're going to prison for a very long time. The confrontation Tasha had been dreading was about to begin, but she was ready for it. She had the evidence, she had the legal representation, and she had the determination to see James pay for every crime he had committed. James had spent months planning to destroy her life, but Tasha was about to show him what real destruction looked like. Tasha watched as James stared at the evidence spread across their coffee table. His face had gone from nervous to terrified in a matter of seconds. The divorce papers in his briefcase were forgotten as he realized that his criminal activities had been exposed. "Tasha, please," James said, his voice shaking. "I can explain everything. It's not what it looks like." Tasha leaned back in her chair, feeling calm for the first time in weeks. "It's exactly what it looks like, James. You've been embezzling money from your clients and using it to fund your relationship with Rebecca Torres. You've been planning to leave me and disappear with stolen money." James reached for one of the bank statements, but Tasha pulled it away. "Don't touch the evidence. I have copies of everything and the FBI already has their copies too." "The FBI?" James's voice was barely a whisper. "Special Agent Thompson is very interested in your business activities," Tasha said. "He's particularly interested in the property transactions you've been conducting with Rebecca. Money laundering is a federal crime, James." James stood up and began pacing around the room. "Tasha, you don't understand. I was going to pay everything back. I was just borrowing the money temporarily." "For 18 months?" Tasha asked. "You've been stealing from your clients for 18 months while planning to leave me. That's not borrowing, James. That's theft." James stopped pacing and turned to face her. "I never meant for it to go this far. It started small, just a few thousand here and there. But then Rebecca and I found these property opportunities, and we thought we could make enough money to pay everything back and still have something left over." Tasha felt disgusted by his attempts to justify his crimes. "You thought you could steal from people who trusted you and then disappear with another woman. What about our marriage, James? What about the 15 years we've been together?" James sat down across from her, his head in his hands. "I fell in love with Rebecca. I didn't plan for it to happen, but it did. I couldn't keep living a lie with you. So you decided to steal from your clients and empty our bank accounts instead," Tasha said. "That was your solution to our marriage problems." "I was going to give you half of everything," James said. "In the divorce, you would have gotten half of our assets." Tasha laughed bitterly. "What assets, James? You transferred all our savings to Rebecca. You maxed out our credit cards buying her gifts. You've been using our money to pay for her apartment, her clothes, her lifestyle. What exactly was I supposed to get half of?" James looked up at her and she could see tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Tasha. I never wanted to hurt you like this." "But you did hurt me," Tasha said. "You've been lying to me for 2 years. You've been stealing from people who trusted you. You've been planning to abandon me and leave me with nothing. And now you're sorry?" James's phone buzzed with a text message. He looked at it and his face went even paler. "Rebecca wants to know if I've talked to you yet," he said. "She's worried about the divorce papers." Tasha felt a surge of anger. Rebecca is worried about the divorce papers? She should be worried about the federal charges she's about to face. "What do you mean?" James asked. "Rebecca is going to be charged as a co-conspirator in your embezzlement scheme," Tasha said. "She's been actively participating in money laundering. She's facing the same charges you are." James's phone rang. Rebecca's name appeared on the screen. "Answer it," Tasha said. "Put it on speaker." James hesitated, but Tasha's expression made it clear that he didn't have a choice. He answered the phone and activated the speaker. "James, did you serve Tasha with the papers?" Rebecca's voice filled the room. "Rebecca, we have a problem," James said. "What kind of problem?" Rebecca asked. Tasha leaned forward. "Hello, Rebecca. This is Tasha, James. I think you and I need to have a conversation." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Rebecca's voice, much smaller than before, "Tasha, I can explain." "I'm sure you can," Tasha said. "But first, I think you should know that the FBI has evidence of your involvement in James's embezzlement scheme. They're preparing charges against you for money laundering and conspiracy." "What are you talking about?" Rebecca asked, but her voice was shaking. "I'm talking about the $300,000 you and James have stolen from his clients," Tasha said. "I'm talking about the property transactions you've been using to launder the money. I'm talking about the apartment James has been paying for, the credit cards he's been funding, and the bank accounts you've been using to hide stolen money." Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. Then, "James, what did you tell her?" "I didn't tell her anything," James said. "She found out on her own." "How?" Rebecca asked. Tasha smiled. I'm a lot smarter than you two gave me credit for. I've been investigating your criminal activities for the past week, and I have evidence of everything you've done. Tasha, please, Rebecca said. I never meant for this to happen. I fell in love with James and things just got out of control. You fell in love with a married man and helped him steal money from his clients, Tasha said. Don't try to romanticize what you've done. James ended the call and looked at Tasha. What do you want from me? I want you to return every penny you've stolen, Tasha said. I want you to confess to your crimes and cooperate with the FBI investigation. And I want you to face the consequences of what you've done. And if I do that? James asked. If you do that, you might get a reduced sentence, Tasha said. But you're still going to prison, James? And you're still going to lose your license, your business, and your reputation. James stared at her for a long moment. I can't believe you're doing this to me. Tasha felt a surge of anger. I'm not doing anything to you, James. You did this to yourself when you decided to steal from your clients and cheat on your wife. You created this situation and now you have to face the consequences. The doorbell rang. Tasha looked out the window and saw 2 FBI agents standing on their front porch. That would be Special Agent Thompson, Tasha said. He's here to arrest you. James looked at the door, then at Tasha. Please, Tasha. Don't let them arrest me. I'll do anything you want. Tasha walked to the door. The only thing I want is justice, James. And that's exactly what you're about to get. She opened the door and smiled at the FBI agents. Good afternoon, Agent Thompson. James is ready to speak with you. As the agents entered their home, Tasha felt a sense of satisfaction. James had spent months planning to destroy her life, but she had turned the tables on him. He was about to face the consequences of his crimes, and Tasha was about to get the justice she deserved. The legal trap she had set was about to spring shut, and James was about to learn that his biggest mistake was underestimating the woman he had betrayed. The FBI agents cuffed James in the living room where Tasha and James had shared countless evenings watching television, discussing their future and planning their life together. The irony wasn't lost on Tasha as she watched her husband being read his Miranda rights in the same space where he had lied to her face for 2 years. James, you are under arrest for embezzlement, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit fraud, Agent Thompson said. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. James looked at Tasha with pleading eyes. Please, Tasha. Don't let them do this. I'll pay back every penny. I'll do anything you want. Tasha stood by the window, watching as neighbors began to gather on the sidewalk. News traveled fast in their suburban neighborhood, and seeing FBI agents at the James house was already causing a stir. You had your chance to do the right thing, James, Tasha said. You chose to steal from your clients and lie to me instead. Agent Thompson finished reading James his rights and began leading him toward the door. Mrs. James, we'll need you to come to the federal building tomorrow to give your formal statement. I'll be there, Tasha said. As the agents led James out of the house, he turned back one last time. Tasha, I love you. I never stopped loving you. Tasha looked at the man she had been married to for 15 years and felt nothing but disgust. If you loved me, you wouldn't have stolen from me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have lied to me every day for 2 years. If you loved me, you wouldn't have planned to disappear with another woman. The door closed behind James and Tasha was alone in the house for the first time in days. She walked to the window and watched as the FBI car drove away with her husband in the back seat. Her phone rang. It was Martinez, her attorney. Tasha, I just heard from Agent Thompson. James has been arrested. How are you feeling? Relieved, Tasha said. And ready for the next step. The next step is Rebecca Torres, Martinez said. The FBI is moving to arrest her this afternoon. They're also executing search warrants on her apartment and her real estate office. Tasha felt a surge of satisfaction. Good. She's just as guilty as James. Tasha, I need to warn you about something, Martinez said. James is going to try to make a deal with the FBI. He's going to offer to testify against Rebecca in exchange for a reduced sentence. Let him, Tasha said. I want both of them to pay for what they've done. There's something else, Martinez said. The FBI has discovered that James and Rebecca have been planning to leave the country. They found plane tickets to Costa Rica in both their names, scheduled for next week. Tasha felt a chill run down her spine. They were really going to disappear. It looks like they were planning to empty all the client accounts and flee the country, Martinez said. If you hadn't discovered their activities when you did, they would have stolen millions of dollars and disappeared. Tasha sat down heavily in her chair. She had known that James was planning to leave her, but she hadn't realized how close she had come to losing everything. Tasha, there's more, Martinez said. The FBI has recovered most of the stolen money. It was sitting in accounts that James and Rebecca were planning to access before they fled. You're going to get your money back, plus substantial additional compensation. What kind of additional compensation? Tasha asked. The FBI has a whistleblower program for cases like this, Martinez said. Citizens who provide evidence that leads to the recovery of stolen funds are eligible for rewards. In your case, the reward could be substantial. Tasha felt a spark of hope. How substantial? Based on the amount of money recovered and the complexity of the case, you could be looking at a reward of several $1 million, Martinez said. Tasha dropped the phone. Several $1 million. She had gone from being financially devastated to potentially being wealthy, all because she had decided to investigate her husband's lies. Tasha, are you still there? Martinez asked. I'm here, Tasha said. I just need a moment to process this. The FBI will want to discuss the details with you tomorrow, Martinez said. But I wanted you to know that your decision to come forward has not only brought criminals to justice, but it's also going to be financially rewarding for you. After ending the call, Tasha walked through the house that had been her home for 10 years. Every room held memories of her marriage to James, but now those memories felt tainted by his betrayal. She couldn't stay in this house, couldn't continue living surrounded by reminders of the life James had destroyed. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Rebecca. We need to talk. Tasha stared at the message. Rebecca had been arrested hours ago, but someone was texting her from Rebecca's phone. Tasha decided to respond. Who is this? She typed. It's Rebecca's sister, Lisa. The FBI just arrested Rebecca at her office. She asked me to contact you. Tasha hesitated. She had no interest in talking to Rebecca or anyone from Rebecca's family. But her curiosity got the better of her. What does she want? She wants to apologize, Lisa replied. She knows what she did was wrong and she wants to make things right. Tasha laughed bitterly. Make things right? She helped my husband steal hundreds of thousands of dollars and destroy my marriage. There's nothing she can do to make that right. Please, Lisa texted. She's scared and alone. She made a mistake, but she's not a bad person. Tasha felt her anger rising. She's not a bad person? She helped James steal from his clients. She participated in money laundering. She was planning to help him disappear and leave me with nothing. She's exactly a bad person. Tasha, please. Rebecca is in love with James. She didn't think about the consequences of her actions. Love doesn't excuse criminal behavior, Tasha replied. Rebecca made her choices and now she has to face the consequences. Tasha blocked the number and turned off her phone. She had no interest in hearing Rebecca's apologies or explanations. Rebecca had actively participated in destroying Tasha's life, and now she was facing the same consequences as James. Tasha spent the evening going through the house, deciding what she wanted to keep and what she wanted to leave behind. Most of the furniture and decorations were reminders of her marriage to James, and she found that she didn't want any of it. She made a list of the things she would take with her when she moved: her personal belongings, her books, her jewelry, and a few sentimental items that predated her marriage. Everything else could stay with the house. As she prepared for bed, Tasha reflected on the events of the past week. 7 days ago, she had been a trusting wife who believed in her marriage. Tonight, she was a woman who had exposed her husband's crimes and was about to become wealthy from his downfall. Tasha had learned that she was stronger than she had ever imagined. She had faced betrayal and deception, and instead of becoming a victim, she had become a force of justice. James had underestimated her intelligence, her determination, and her ability to fight back. Tomorrow she would give her statement to the FBI and begin the process of rebuilding her life. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, Tasha slept peacefully, knowing that justice was finally being served. Tasha sat in the sterile conference room at the FBI field office, surrounded by agents, attorneys, and financial analysts. The evidence she had gathered was spread across multiple tables, each document labeled and cataloged as part of the federal investigation into James and Rebecca's crimes. Special Agent Thompson sat across from her, his expression serious but respectful. Mrs. James, your cooperation in this investigation has been extraordinary. The evidence you provided has allowed us to build an airtight case against your husband and his accomplice. Tasha nodded, still processing the magnitude of what she had uncovered. I just wanted to know where my money went. I never imagined it would lead to this. Your investigation skills are impressive, Agent Thompson said. You documented a sophisticated financial crime that might have gone undetected for years. James and Rebecca had created a complex network of shell companies and fraudulent transactions that would have been difficult for us to uncover without your evidence. Martinez, Tasha's attorney, leaned forward. Agent Thompson, can you tell us about the recovered funds? We've recovered approximately $2.8 million in stolen funds, Agent Thompson said. This includes money stolen from James's clients, profits from the illegal property transactions, and assets purchased with stolen money. Tasha felt her heart race. $2.8 million? James and Rebecca had been planning to steal much more before fleeing the country, Agent Thompson explained. Your discovery of their activities prevented them from completing their plan. They were preparing to empty several large client accounts totaling over $5 million. Tasha stared at the agent. They were going to steal $5 million? Based on the evidence we found in their communications, yes, Agent Thompson said. They had identified clients with substantial cash reserves and were planning to steal from all of them before disappearing to Costa Rica. Martinez made notes on her legal pad. What about the whistleblower reward? Agent Thompson smiled. Mrs. James, the FBI has approved a substantial reward for your cooperation in this case. Under the federal whistleblower program, citizens who provide evidence that leads to the recovery of stolen funds are eligible for rewards of up to 30% of the recovered amount. Tasha felt dizzy. 30% of $2.8 million? Actually, it's more than that, Agent Thompson said. The reward is calculated based on the total amount of theft we prevented, not just the amount we recovered. Since your actions prevented the theft of over $5 million, your reward will be calculated based on that amount. Tasha couldn't speak. She stared at Agent Thompson, trying to process what he was telling her. Mrs. James, your whistleblower reward will be $1.5 million, Agent Thompson said. Additionally, as the spouse of one of the defendants, you're entitled to restitution for the money stolen from your joint accounts. That's an additional $250,000. Tasha felt tears welling up in her eyes. I'm going to get $1.75 million? That's not all, Agent Thompson said. The assets we've seized from James and Rebecca include property, jewelry, and investments worth approximately $800,000. As the wrong spouse, you're entitled to compensation from those assets as well. Martinez was writing frantically. Agent Thompson, what's the total compensation? Including the whistleblower reward, restitution, and asset recovery, Mrs. James will receive approximately $2.5 million, Agent Thompson said. Tasha put her head in her hands and began to cry. A week ago, she had discovered that her husband had stolen their life savings and was planning to leave her with nothing. Now she was learning that his crimes had made her wealthy. Mrs. James, are you all right? Agent Thompson asked. Tasha looked up, wiping her eyes. I went from having nothing to having more money than I've ever dreamed of. It's overwhelming. You earned every penny of it, Martinez said. Your investigation and courage exposed a major financial crime and prevented millions of dollars in additional theft. Agent Thompson continued. There's one more thing. The clients who were victims of James's embezzlement have asked to meet with you. They want to thank you for exposing his crimes and preventing additional losses. Tasha nodded. I'd like to meet with them. Mrs. James, I have to ask, Agent Thompson said. How do you feel about the fact that your husband's crimes have resulted in such a substantial financial benefit for you? Tasha thought about the question. I feel like justice has been served. James tried to destroy my life and steal from people who trusted him. Instead, his crimes have been exposed and I'm being compensated for what he put me through. What about Rebecca Torres? Agent Thompson asked. She's been offering to cooperate with our investigation in exchange for a reduced sentence. Tasha felt a surge of anger. Rebecca was an active participant in James's crimes. She helped him steal money, launder funds, and plan his escape. She doesn't deserve any leniency. Her cooperation could help us recover additional funds, Agent Thompson said. Then use her cooperation but don't reduce her sentence, Tasha said. She made her choices and she should face the full consequences. Martinez nodded approvingly. Tasha has every right to insist on full prosecution. After the meeting, Tasha walked out of the FBI building feeling like a different person than the one who had entered. She had gone from being a victim to being a millionaire, all because she had refused to accept her husband's lies. Tasha's phone rang. It was her sister Claire, calling from Chicago. Tasha, I just saw the news about James. Are you okay? I'm better than okay, Tasha said. I'm rich. What do you mean? Claire asked. Tasha explained about the whistleblower reward and the recovered funds. Claire was quiet for a long moment. Tasha, you've gone from being married to a criminal to being a millionaire, Claire said. How do you feel about that? I feel like I've won, Tasha said. James thought he could destroy my life and disappear with his mistress. Instead, he's going to prison and I'm going to be wealthy. What are you going to do with the money? Claire asked. Tasha looked at the city skyline, feeling a sense of possibility she hadn't felt in years. I'm going to start over. I'm going to build a life that James can't touch, can't control, and can't destroy. Good for you, Claire said. You deserve happiness after what he put you through. Tasha ended the call and stood on the steps of the FBI building, looking at the city with new eyes. She had enough money to go anywhere, do anything, and become anyone she wanted to be. James had tried to steal her future, but instead, he had given her a better one than she had ever imagined. Tasha smiled as she walked to her car, ready to begin the next chapter of her life. 3 months after James's arrest, Tasha sat in the federal courthouse watching her husband's sentencing hearing. James looked older than his 45 years, his face gaunt and his expensive suits replaced with an orange jumpsuit. The confident, successful accountant she had married was gone, replaced by a broken man who had lost everything. Judge Patricia Morrison reviewed the case files before addressing the court. Mr. James, you have been found guilty of embezzlement, money laundering, conspiracy to commit fraud, and conspiracy to flee prosecution. The evidence against you was overwhelming, and your crimes have devastated the lives of your clients and your family. Tasha watched James's face as the judge spoke. He looked defeated, staring at his hands instead of meeting anyone's eyes. His attorney, a public defender who had taken the case when James could no longer afford private counsel, sat beside him looking equally hopeless. Your crimes were not crimes of passion or desperation, Judge Morrison continued. They were calculated, systematic thefts carried out over an extended period of time. You betrayed the trust of your clients, your profession, and your family. The prosecutor, Assistant U.S. Attorney Rebecca Chin, stood to address the court. Your Honor, the defendant's crimes have caused immeasurable harm to his victims. He stole over $300,000 from small businesses that trusted him with their financial security. He destroyed his marriage through deception and betrayal. And he was planning to steal millions more before fleeing the country. Tasha felt a sense of satisfaction as she listened to the prosecutor detail James's crimes. Every lie he had told, every dollar he had stolen, every plan he had made was being exposed in open court. The government recommends a sentence of 15 years in federal prison, Chin said. Mr. James's crimes were sophisticated, extensive, and showed a complete disregard for the law and the people he harmed. James's attorney stood to make his plea for leniency. Your Honor, my client has expressed remorse for his actions. He has cooperated with the FBI investigation and has provided information that led to the recovery of stolen funds. He is willing to pay restitution to his victims. Judge Morrison looked at James. Mr. James, do you wish to address the court? James stood slowly, his chains rattling as he moved. Your Honor, I want to apologize to my victims, to my clients, and to my wife. I made terrible choices and I hurt people who trusted me. I'm sorry for the pain I've caused. Tasha felt nothing as she listened to James's apology. His words were empty, delivered only because his attorney had told him to say them. James was sorry he had been caught, not sorry for what he had done. I accept full responsibility for my actions, James continued. I know that I deserve to be punished for what I've done. Judge Morrison nodded. Mr. James, your crimes were serious and extensive. You stole from people who trusted you, and you betrayed your family in the most devastating way possible. However, your cooperation with the investigation and your willingness to accept responsibility have been noted. Tasha held her breath as the judge prepared to announce the sentence. James, I sentence you to 12 years in federal prison followed by 3 years of supervised release. You will also pay restitution to your victims in the amount of $2.8 million. James collapsed into his chair as the sentence was announced. 12 years in prison would destroy what remained of his life. He would be nearly 60 years old when he was released, with no career, no money, and no family waiting for him. Tasha felt a sense of closure as she watched James being led away in handcuffs. Justice had been served, and James was going to spend the next 12 years paying for his crimes. As Tasha left the courthouse, she was approached by several of James's former clients. Mitchell from Mitchell Construction, Dr. Peterson from the medical practice, and others whose money James had stolen. Mrs. James, we want to thank you, Mitchell said. If you hadn't exposed James's crimes, we would have lost everything. You saved our businesses, Dr. Peterson added. We're grateful for your courage. Tasha shook hands with each of them, feeling proud of what she had accomplished. She had not only gotten justice for herself but had also protected other people from James's crimes. A week later, Tasha attended Rebecca Torres's sentencing hearing. Rebecca had tried to cooperate with the FBI investigation, providing information about the property transactions and money laundering operation. But her cooperation couldn't undo the damage she had caused. Rebecca looked younger than her 32 years as she stood before Judge Morrison. She had been in federal custody for 3 months, and the stress of the legal proceedings had taken its toll. Ms. Torres, you have been found guilty of conspiracy to commit embezzlement, money laundering, and conspiracy to flee prosecution, Judge Morrison said. Your participation in Mr. James's crimes was extensive and willing. Rebecca's attorney argued for leniency, claiming that Rebecca had been manipulated by James and had not understood the full scope of their illegal activities. But the prosecutor presented evidence showing that Rebecca had been an active participant in planning and executing the crimes. Ms. Torres was not a victim of Mr. James's manipulation, the prosecutor said. She was a co-conspirator who helped plan and execute sophisticated financial crimes. She used her position as a real estate agent to launder stolen money and was preparing to flee the country with the proceeds. Judge Morrison sentenced Rebecca to 8 years in federal prison, followed by 2 years of supervised release. She would also be required to pay restitution and surrender her real estate license. Tasha watched as Rebecca was led away in handcuffs, feeling a sense of complete justice. Both James and Rebecca would spend years in prison, paying for their crimes and their betrayal. After the sentencing, Tasha met with Martinez to discuss the final details of her compensation. The FBI had processed her whistleblower reward, and the money had been deposited into her accounts. Tasha, you now have access to $2.5 million, Martinez said. What are your plans? Tasha smiled. I'm going to disappear just like James and Rebecca planned to do. But I'm going to do it legally with my own money. Where will you go? Martinez asked. I'm thinking about moving to California, Tasha said. I want to start a consulting business helping other women who have been financially abused by their spouses. I want to use my experience to help other people. Martinez nodded approvingly. That's a wonderful way to use your experience and your resources. Tasha left Martinez's office feeling like she had finally closed the chapter on her marriage to James. She had exposed his crimes, seen him imprisoned, recovered her money, and received justice. Now she was ready to start the next chapter of her life. James had tried to destroy her, but instead, he had given her the opportunity to become stronger, wealthier, and more independent than she had ever been. Tasha was ready to build a new life, one that James could never touch or control. 6 months after James's sentencing, Tasha stood on the balcony of her new apartment in San Francisco, watching the sun set over the Golden Gate Bridge. The apartment was everything she had never dared to dream of: a modern penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows, a gourmet kitchen, and a view that took her breath away every morning. Tasha had used her settlement money to completely reinvent her life. She had left her old city, her old home, and her old identity behind. In San Francisco, she wasn't the woman who had been betrayed by her husband. She was Tasha James, successful entrepreneur and advocate for financial abuse victims. Her consulting business, Phoenix Financial Recovery, had grown beyond her wildest expectations. Tasha helped women who had been financially abused by their spouses, teaching them how to investigate suspicious financial activity, protect their assets, and rebuild their lives. Her unique experience and success story had made her a sought-after speaker and consultant. Tasha's phone buzzed with a text from her business partner, Angela, a financial crimes attorney who had joined Tasha's firm 3 months ago. The documentary crew wants to schedule your final interview for next week. Are you ready? Tasha smiled as she typed her response. I'm ready. The documentary about Tasha's case had been in production for months. The Whistleblower Wife told the story of how Tasha had exposed her husband's crimes and transformed her life. The film had already been accepted to several major film festivals and was generating significant media attention. Tasha's story had inspired other women to investigate their own husbands' financial activities. Phoenix Financial Recovery had received hundreds of calls from women who suspected their spouses of financial abuse, and Tasha had helped dozens of them expose crimes and recover stolen money. The doorbell rang, interrupting Tasha's thoughts. She opened the door to find a delivery man holding a large bouquet of flowers. Tasha James? He asked. That's me, Tasha said, accepting the flowers. The card read, Congratulations on your new life. You deserve every happiness. Agent Thompson. Tasha smiled, remembering the FBI agent who had helped her bring James to justice. Agent Thompson had become a friend and supporter, and he had been instrumental in helping Tasha establish her consulting business. Tasha's phone rang. It was her sister Claire, calling from Chicago. "Tasha, I just saw the article about you in Forbes magazine," Claire said. "I'm so proud of you." The Forbes article had profiled Tasha as one of the women to watch in the financial consulting industry. The article detailed her transformation from victim to entrepreneur and highlighted her success in helping other women recover from financial abuse. "I never thought I'd be featured in Forbes," Tasha said. "A year ago, I was a housewife who had just discovered her husband was a criminal. And now you're a millionaire entrepreneur who has helped dozens of women recover millions of dollars in stolen money," Claire said. "James tried to destroy you, but you became stronger than he ever imagined." Tasha walked to her home office, where she kept a framed photo of herself receiving an award from the National Association of Women Business Owners. The woman in the photo looked confident, successful, and happy. It was hard to believe that this was the same person who had sat in the bank 9 months ago, learning that her husband had stolen their life savings. "Claire, I need to tell you something," Tasha said. "I've been thinking about James a lot lately." "Are you having second thoughts about what you did?" Claire asked. "No, not at all," Tasha said. "I've been thinking about how he's doing in prison, and I realize that I feel sorry for him." "Sorry for him?" Claire sounded surprised. "James destroyed his own life," Tasha said. "He had a successful career, a loving wife, and a good reputation. He threw all of that away for a woman who was using him and money that was never really his." Tasha walked to her window looking out at the city below. "I'm living in a penthouse apartment, running a successful business and helping other women. James is in a federal prison and he'll be there for another 11 years. I won." "You did more than win," Claire said. "You turned his betrayal into your success story." After ending the call, Tasha sat at her desk and opened her laptop. She was working on a book about her experience, tentatively titled From Victim to Victor: How Financial Betrayal Changed My Life. The book would detail her journey from discovery to justice to success, offering hope and practical advice to other women facing similar situations. Tasha's calendar for the next week was packed with appointments. She had consultations with 3 new clients, a speaking engagement at a law school, and a meeting with investors interested in expanding Phoenix financial recovery to other cities. Her phone buzzed with an email from her literary agent. "Tasha, I have great news. The publisher wants to move forward with your book. They're offering a 6-figure advance and a multi-book deal. Congratulations." Tasha stared at the email, amazed at how much her life had changed. She had gone from being financially devastated to being wealthy, from being a victim to being an advocate, from being betrayed to being successful. As she prepared for bed, Tasha thought about the future. She had plans to expand her business, write more books, and continue helping women recover from financial abuse. She had also started dating again, something she had never thought she would be ready to do. Thomas, a software engineer she had met at a business conference, had asked her out for dinner next week. Tasha had been hesitant at first, but she realized that she was ready to open her heart again. She had learned to trust herself and she was ready to trust someone else. Tasha looked at herself in the bathroom mirror and smiled. The woman staring back at her was confident, successful, and happy. She had survived her husband's betrayal and built a life that was better than anything she had imagined. James was sitting in a federal prison serving 12 years for his crimes. Rebecca was in a different prison serving 8 years for her role in the embezzlement scheme. Both of them had lost everything: their freedom, their careers, their reputations, and their future together. Tasha had lost a cheating husband and gained a fortune, a career, and a new life. She had turned James's betrayal into her greatest success story. As Tasha turned off the lights and settled into bed, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. 9 months ago, she had been a trusting wife who believed in her marriage. Tonight, she was a successful entrepreneur who had built a new life from the ashes of her old one. James had tried to destroy her, but he had only made her stronger. Tasha smiled as she drifted off to sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring new opportunities, new challenges, and new reasons to be grateful for the life she had built. The sun would rise over San Francisco in a few hours, and Tasha would wake up to another day of success, happiness, and freedom. She had survived her husband's betrayal and emerged victorious, and she was ready for whatever the future held. Tasha's story was far from over. She had found her strength, her voice, and her purpose. And she was going to use all 3 to help other women find theirs.